Evelyn pounded on the black door, but it wouldn't open. The mirror's faces pressed closer, hands reaching through the glass. She ran, but the hallway outside twisted into an endless loop, always returning to the black door. Laughter echoed, her own reflection chasing her. Desperate, she charged the mirror, hoping to break it. But her reflection reached out, grabbed her arm, its grip icy and real. Evelyn screamed as she was pulled into the glass. The next morning, the storm was gone. Evelyn's car sat by the inn, empty. The villagers searched, found nothing but silence. Weeks later, a camera was found in her car. One photo, the black room's mirror, with Evelyn's terrified face trapped inside. She had become another ghost of Ravenhurst Inn, forever behind the glass. Trapped, Evelyn scanned the room. Pristine bed, fresh roses, polished dresser. On the far wall, a massive mirror gleamed. She approached, seeing her pale, frightened reflection. Then, a whisper, her name from the mirror itself. Evelyn's reflection didn't move with her. It smiled, a cold, alien grin. The whispers grew, voices filling the room, all chanting her name. Faces appeared behind her reflection, pale, desperate, pressing against the glass. Hands reached out, begging for release, or for her to join them. The mirror glowed, the air turned icy, and Evelyn realized the inn's true secret. Evelyn fled the numbered rooms, heart pounding. At the end of the hall, a door unmarked, painted black, absorbing her flashlight's beam. It had no handle, no keyhole, just darkness. Something pulled her closer, against her will. She pressed her hand to the cold, glassy surface and pushed. The door swung open, revealing a room of utter blackness. The air was fresh, the room, spotless, impossibly perfect compared to the rest of the inn. Evelyn stepped inside. The black door closed behind her, sealing her fate. Room 1's door creaked open. Inside, a bed, a table, all coated in dust. On the wall, deep claw marks, desperate and human. Evelyn shivered, recorded her findings, and moved to room 2. This room was nearly identical, except for a dark, old stain on the floor. She knelt, heart racing. Blood, she backed away, unsettled. Room 3 felt colder, heavier. The window was shattered, glass crunching underfoot. Suddenly, her recorder hissed with static, then a child's voice. "Help me." The voice was so real. Evelyn dropped the recorder in shock. The inn's secrets were clawing their way to the surface. Inside, the air was cold, thick with dust and the scent of rot. The door slammed shut behind Evelyn, locking her in. Her flashlight revealed a vast, empty lobby, cobwebs swaying in the draft. At the front desk, an old guest book lay open. The last entries, 3 names, dated 50 years ago. No one since. It was as if time had stopped. Evelyn recorded her notes, but when she played them back, a whisper echoed, "Get out." She froze, replayed it. There it was again, not her voice. Down a dark hallway, numbered doors waited. Room 1, room 2, room 3. The rooms of the missing guests. Evelyn pressed on, each step echoing in the silence, the whisper haunting her. The rain battered Evelyn Carter's car as she gripped the wheel, headlights barely cutting through the storm. Thunder shook the sky. The old road twisted up a hill, trees thrashing in the wind. At the top, the Ravenhurst Inn loomed dark, broken, ancient. Evelyn, a historian chasing the truth behind the inn's legend, parked by a faded sign locals had warned her. The inn is cursed 50 years ago. 3 guests vanished without a trace. No clues, no bodies, just empty rooms, and a story that grew darker every year. Evelyn stepped into the rain, heart pounding with fear and excitement. She approached the inn, its windows gaping like empty eyes. The front door was heavy, crowned with a raven-shaped knocker. She pushed. The door groaned open. The inn seemed to breathe, waiting for her. Evelyn hesitated, then stepped inside, determined to uncover the truth. The final days were a blur. Time lost all meaning. The apartment was an open revolt, walls rippling, doorways migrating, rooms shifting. The whisper was constant. "Don't look away." He tried to leave, but the front door opened into his own bathroom. The world outside looked fake, like a stage set. The apartment had severed him from reality. There was no escape. His final act, he sat in the living room, staring at a crack in the wall, refusing to blink. The whispers grew louder, the room distorted, the wall pulsed like a heart. The police report was brief. Alex Miller, missing. Apartment neat but empty. The only thing out of place, a wall clock, hands frozen at 3:33, and on the wall scrawled over and over, "Don't look away." The impossible door appeared on a Thursday in the back of his pantry. A small, low door made of splintered wood. It had never been there before. There was no basement in this building. Yet there it was. Against every instinct, he opened it. Cold, ancient air billowed out. Stone steps descended into blackness. He grabbed a flashlight, descended. The steps went down further than possible. The door slammed shut above him. He was trapped. The whisper was all around him. "Don't look away!" He pointed the flashlight down. The steps continued into the void. He spent hours in the suffocating dark, the slow, steady drip echoing. It was the same drip from the beginning, coming from here all along. Finally, the door reappeared. He scrambled through, back into the pantry. He never looked behind it again, but he knew the basement was still there, waiting. The mirrors became his new fixation, his new terror. He'd catch flickers of movement behind his reflection. The reflection's expression was off, smiles too wide, eyes too hollow. Then, the reflection started to act independently. A fractional delay, a stare that lingered. He avoided his own gaze, tried to cover the mirrors, but the apartment wouldn't allow it. The mirrors had to be seen. The apartment demanded it. The whisper echoed, "Don't look away!" One evening, he watched as his reflection slowly raised a hand and pressed it against the glass from the other side. He hadn't moved. The reflection's eyes were filled with cold intelligence. It smiled, mouthed a single word. "Soon." Alex stumbled back, breathless, fleeing the bathroom. But he could still feel the reflection's gaze burning through the door. The apartment began to play tricks on his mind. Objects weren't where he left them: keys, books, chairs. At first, he blamed exhaustion, but the occurrences became more blatant. The hallway seemed longer at night. Light switches vanished, then reappeared. He measured the walls. The numbers were always the same, but the feeling persisted the space was changing. He set up his phone to record the living room while he slept. The footage showed nothing, but the armchair had moved. The apartment was rewriting his reality, editing his memory. The feeling of being watched became constant, a prickling on the back of his neck. The apartment itself was the observer. The whisper returned, more insistent, "Don't look away." He found himself staring at doorways, corners, cracks, afraid of what might happen if he blinked. The rule was becoming a prison. The sounds began to change. The dripping faded, replaced by something far more unsettling. It started as faint scratching behind the drywall, then a slithering sound as if something large was dragging itself through the walls. Alex bought traps, but never saw a mouse. The sounds grew bolder, more organic. Then came the whispers, faint, sibilant, always just behind him. He'd spin around, finding only the empty, silent kitchen. His friends noticed the change in him. He was tired, withdrawn. When he tried to explain, they offered practical advice. Call an exterminator, get earplugs. But the sounds were tailored just for him. The apartment was his secret, his tormentor. One night, as he drifted to sleep, a voice whispered directly into his ear, "Don't look away!" He snapped awake. The words hung in the air. A warning, a rule. He didn't know what it meant, but he felt its importance deep in his bones. The apartment had finally spoken, and he was terrified of what it would say next. It began with a sound. Drip, drip, drip. Alex first heard it on a quiet Tuesday night. He was a logical man, believing in cause and effect, in pipes and pressure. The sound came from the kitchen, or maybe the bathroom. He checked every faucet, tightened every valve. The dripping continued. It was a sound without a source, a ghost in the plumbing. He tried to ignore it, turning on the TV. But the drip was always there, just beneath the noise. At night, the drip grew louder in the silence of his bedroom.
Drip!
Drip, it was the only thing in the universe. He told himself it was just an old building. Buildings make noises. This was normal. The next day, he called the superintendent, Mr. Henderson. Henderson checked everything, found nothing. Old buildings, son. Sometimes they just drip. Alex insisted, but Henderson just shrugged and left. The dripping remained. That night, the sound changed. It wasn't just a drip, it had a rhythm, a code he couldn't decipher. He pressed his ear to the wall. The sound was clearer, vibrating through the structure. It was inside the walls. He felt a cold knot in his stomach. It wasn't just a leak. It was something else. Something trying to get his attention.